Here's why the Bible cannot be true, part 4. James 1:13 says that God tempts no one and that he cannot be tempted by evil. But in Genesis 22:1 it says that God tempted Abraham, and in Matthew 4 it says Jesus was tempted by Satan.
So some of you all might have the same question here, but it's only an issue if you force the word tempt into one meaning. In fact, if you look at James chapter 1 verse 13, it says that when the person is being tempted, they can't say that God is tempting them to commit evil, because the thing is, God isn't tempted to do evil, nor does he tempt anyone to commit evil. As a matter of fact, it says in verse 14, to clarify this, that a person who is tempted is actually being tempted by their own internal evil desire. It's something internal, it's something evil within them which draws them to a certain sin. And so you can say, for example, if there's this person called Steve, right, for example, who's addicted to cocaine and he wants to give up on that addiction, and he's going through symptoms of withdrawal, and he's tempted to take cocaine again, you can't say that God is sitting up in his divine counsel saying, you know what, let's tempt Steve to take cocaine. We can't say that, because God has nothing to do with tempting people to commit evil. You could say that the devil might have a part in it. You may say that it's a person's own evil desires, but it has nothing to do with God. And then again, we go to Genesis chapter 22, verse 1, where he pointed out that it says that God tempted Abraham. But some other translations also say, like for example, the NIV says that God tested Abraham, which I think is a more reliable translation in that specific instance of what's going on. Because if you look at the context, it's God testing Abraham in the sense that he's asking Abraham basically, are you willing to obey or remain loyal to me, even at the cost of your own precious son Isaac? And so Abraham succeeds in that test. He is not really tempted by God to commit an evil act, as James is talking about, but he remains steadfast in that trial. He remains steadfast, and he shows God that he is faithful, even at the cost of his own son. Again, when we go to Matthew chapter 4 and we see where it says that Jesus was tempted by the devil, or that the devil tempted Jesus, it's not really that Jesus had an internal desire that was drawing him to temptation, as James is talking about, or that was drawing him to sin, as James is talking about. But what's really going on is that the devil was presenting temptations to Jesus, and Jesus rejected each and every one of them, which actually is in line with what James was saying. Jesus rejected all the temptations, because according to Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15, it says that Jesus was tempted in all ways like we are, and yet was without sin. So Jesus was tempted by the devil in that he was presented with temptations, but there was no evil desire to draw upon from Jesus to cause him to sin, or to cause him to succumb into that temptation. That's why Jesus succeeded. He didn't give in to any of those temptations. If you look at the story of Adam and Eve, and where Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, she was tempted to eat from that tree, and she disobeyed God, and so she failed that test. If you look at the story of the Exodus and how Israel was tempted in the wilderness to complain about God, they failed. If you look at Samson's story, he failed. But when it comes to Jesus, Jesus remained steadfast, he was pure-hearted, he is God incarnate, and he never gave in to sin. So I hope that helps, and God bless you.